and welcome to Young Money. I'm Nozi Pombandwa. On tonight's episode, we're going to continue to cover the conversation and the student revolution as they continue to demand free higher education in South Africa. Recently, I went to Wits University to see exactly what the students were up to. And even though registration was cancelled in the previous week, things hadn't gone back to normal, and Wits University went out to get a court interdict against the protesting students. I spoke to some of these students, and here's what they had to say.
We continue with protest action, and the first thing that must happen is that we need to claim back our home, Solomon House, and then from then onwards, we continue as planned. Our protest will continue being peaceful. Our protest will continue echoing what other universities are saying nationwide, that fees must fall, and we want free education now.
Universities have been at the center of these conversations, and they claim that they're doing all that they can to mitigate the funding issues as best they can. I spoke to Wits University spokesperson, and here's what Sharona Patel had to say.
At this stage, all we can say is that we support the call for access to affordable, quality, free education. At this stage, we're doing all that we can to ensure that we give as much access as we can to students. We've scrapped the registration fee, we've scrapped the upfront payment. The first installments that students have to pay would be at the end of March. We're saying that if students still cannot pay at the end of March, that they should enter into a payment plan with the university. Now, I cannot comment for the students. I know that they're calling for free education now, and we believe that's a national conversation. That's something that should be a national imperative for both government and the private sector.
The conversation around the fees must fall is obviously a lot bigger than you or I. With that in mind, we sat down with a panel to unpack the cost of education in South Africa. And of course, we latched on to the ever popular phrase, and the question that we asked was, "Ziraiti fees?" Is this a national conversation, and who should be shaping the conversation?
And I think that's been part of the problem. I don't think it is a national conversation. I think it's a conversation in the quarters that are most directly at the moment impacted by the campaign. The announcement of the 0% fee increase last year was almost a directive from government to universities. It wasn't universities coming together and saying this is possible. If anything, we heard the contrary to the issue that there could be any freezing of increases or no increases at all. So I think our communities, the parents in the townships, in town halls, those conversations this is not happening. It's a by the way when it happens to be on television or on radio. So for me, I think that's important, that it needs to be taken down to that level so that we understand I may have to make sacrifices as a working South African to make sure that there is free public education. I might have to incur a higher bit of a tax. I don't know, but we need, as South Africans in general, need to be engaged in a conversation. And right now, universities with autonomy and their rights to be able to do what they do in terms of figuring out how universities work, and government, on the other hand, trying to have this balancing act. It's almost a one-sided kind of conversation, and I think that's why there was such a shock last year when students stood up and said, we're not going to listen anymore.
What does this mean for your business model as a bursar? If the campaign is successful and higher education is suddenly free in South Africa, does this mean that you cease to exist?
We aim to cease to exist. It is our goal as a bursary fund to aim to cease to exist, because we're not in it for ourselves. We're in it in the development of the country, to grow the scarce skills, to make sure that the cycles of poverty, particularly in African and colored communities, is broken. So that's what we work for. That's what we live for. I'd be happy tomorrow if I'm out of a job. I gotta go look for something else, because that's what we should be.
Okay, let me put it to you that I don't necessarily think you will stop to exist, because if we get free higher education, I mean, at the moment, Ntati, we don't have enough universities to accommodate all the students.
True.
And as I said earlier, you are going to have private higher education coming up. It's going to be strong. Of course, you already have Monash, that's charges higher. That's got no fees must fall, and things are going on. You're going to have more, and I'm sure as we're speaking, the Advertex and the Kuros are talking about their higher education. Some of them are already running teacher education programs, colleges, and so on, and they're looking to expand. You're going to have that. You're going to have more students wanting to gain access to higher education. And the private higher education institutions will be charging more.
Should we be encouraging that though? Because we do need more.
What can you do? You can't. In a way, you can't outlaw it.
There's also option for like open universities, like Coursera, where you can do your online. Is a space for that going to come once the data is more freely available?
That's a risk.
It's not going to happen here. People don't have ADSL.
Yeah.
But if it comes to 20 wants to be a free Wi-Fi type city,
I don't think.
But how long will it take for us to get there?
Guys, I think the reality is, and I think we need to consider this. Firstly, this debate that Mamkheti has identified is one we need to seriously think about, because if you go to universities in Nigeria, you will see that they do have, like in the state of Owerri, there's a free university there that only has 4 functional toilets. So when you go to the university, it's free, but it looks like a dilapidated school. So you've got to also think about those modalities around what is the nature of the free education that we want, and how do we sustain the right quality. I mean, I see that there's a lot of online learning now, you know, the MOOCs, the massive online learning platforms. But you must remember, like, it doesn't seem to me that ADSL is going to become readily available to the kind of kid who could want to learn Think Again
Tammy's
course.
getting upset. Tammy's getting upset.
I'm just being realistic, because if I'm in Soweto, where do I even get the iPhone to begin with for me to register and do those things?
I mean, phones the way they're growing now, it's possible. You can download a textbook. There are free textbooks on Creative Commons. Why are we still buying textbooks if you can get them for free from the all same universities? So you can download those, small one PDF, have it on your phone, and it's not that expensive.
Tammy, here's the thing. The demand for higher education is so high. Yeah. So I work at an open distance learning university, and I can tell you with more than 350,000 students, the majority of those, even though you have everything online, they still want face-to-face. Sometimes they want a rugby, they want a soccer field on the.
That's why
because
it's so hard as well. Because
what I'm saying is that what you're talking about is an ideal, and some people will access that. It might be employed people who could be going to UNISA, they go for Coursera or whatever. But you're gonna have the demand is high, so. I bet, talk to me in 10 years from now, private higher education will be thriving.
But I think and
Ntati will be in business. Let me tell you what you'll be doing. Let me tell you what Ntati will be doing.
What will I be doing?
Ntati will be sponsoring some of the black students
in the private
to go to the private university
I think
to BCS. He doesn't think about it right now, but it is going to happen.
For me, though, I think
defend yourself.
I don't need to really, because I think for the most part of our model speaks to the fact that it's not just funding isolated. It's funding coupled with throughput at the end.
Yes.
How do you get that throughput?
Yeah.
You can get the student there, but you need to provide the kind of support to enable that student to get through. So for me, even if we say free education, we know nothing in this world is for free.
Yeah.
Somebody is paying for it. It might not be that student. Therefore, the one aspect of what we do will still be very relevant, ensuring that those students that come in continue to study and graduate.
But Jamie's point is apt here.
Yes.
Because what Jamie says, once you go free, money is not enough. And look, our experience with basic education in the country, because with we don't have free basic education in the country, by the way. We have non-fee paying schools.
Yes.
You should talk to them about what changed when the paying of fees happened. Many of them are struggling. Okay, because as much as they get a government subsidy, it's not enough. So it's going to happen at universities. It will never be enough. And then, and what you'll have, the universities will start cutting. What will they cut? Toilets or support for students? And so the private higher education sector will thrive because they will have all the rights to charge, unless there are laws that prevent them from charging up to a particular amount, and so and then they will charge. And when they charge, they will hire the best academics. They will get the best support. Ntati will love them because if Ntati takes his students to them, they will be well supported. They'll complete on time. And I'm just saying, you've got to think of this possibility.
Or is it time for enough students now to take some of the slack from the universities? Like at school, we used to clean the toilets. We didn't have help So it's also like admin. Your students now take up more help.
But
to
the
help
culture of our country, the values have changed.
Let me just
Students don't even want to clean.
toilets. We clean our
Primary
toilets
school
for
kids and
the
high school kids in the town don't want to clean the classrooms anymore.
But if they want free fees, there must be a way that to help
Exactly.
the
So
burden
there's a
from-
lot of ideology in what we're talking about, Jamie.
Let me jump in. I'm a Zimbabwean national, actually. And when I came here, I wanted to be a medical student. I got accepted to Wits Medical School. And the reason why I never really wanted to study medicine at the university in Zimbabwe is because the conditions there were so dire. You know, so state administration of public institutions does have a bearing on what kind of talent you retain and who you attract. But further than that, I think we also must discuss, because like it's a multifaceted conversation, and it would be remiss of me not to add as a student that genuinely speaking, the educational system is not even preparing us for the Africa we want to create. If I go now to law school, I'm being taught, and that's where I am currently in law school, I'm being taught how to be a good lawyer for one of the top law firms.
Yeah.
I'm not being taught how to build a law firm or how to provide legal services to the communities that need it. So you look at me, you see an articulate black man who is studying law. Your expectation is he is going to do wonderful things for his people, right? But I'm not even equipped to know the basics. I should leave varsity knowing how to get a startup law firm running in the communities that need it, because that's what you do in entrepreneurship, and this is an entrepreneurship show. I should be able to identify opportunity, go to those locations where the opportunity exists, and build my customer base.
But Jamie, who's supposed to make that happen? I think that's where
I
for
think
me
we're
the
supposed
challenge
to
is.
demand it, because it's not happening, right? So what's happening is that the state, and last year we saw that the state is a reactive state. You wait for students to block the gates, and then all of a sudden you find 2 billion. Because the reality is, if you go to film school, you're not being taught the business of film. You're just being taught, here's the various media platforms, here's how you write a plot.
But that's not the problem of the states.
No,
That's the
I'm saying
problem
it's a
of
collective.
the universities.
It's a collective
And
effort,
you
right?
see, that's where autonomy comes. The government doesn't tell universities what to teach, how to teach.
You can catch the full debate tomorrow right here on CNBC Africa. You certainly don't want to miss that. But that's all we have time for tonight. Thank you for making the time to join us. Remember that you can join us again next week, and you can influence the conversations that we can fall. Don't forget the debate. The hashtag is feesmustfall. And of course, this is a very important conversation on the South African higher education landscape. And of course, if you want the Young Money crew to come to you, all you need to do is tweet us, hashtag YoungMoney410. Give us a sense of a question of how you want to take your business to the next level. Until then, let's keep making money.